the man, the machine, the pathophysiology, biomechanics, components. More or less, this conference is going to focus on the philosophy of Elizabeth, which is called a revolutionary deviation in the field of orthopedics. My experience with the system, number one, I am not as an expert as many of the faculty who are here. I have never been to Gurgaon, Russia. I have never been formally trained in the system under anyone. I have learned by experimentation, learned from my own mistakes, and reached a full circle after 30 years of this. I experimented a lot with this, learned from my mistakes, conducted 63 workshops. I was the one to introduce this in Malaysia, Singapore, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh in the early 90s. I studied biomechanics and read the literature, attended and conducted workshops, and I continue to learn even today. In 1991, I wrote a book. Around the same time as another conventional books of Elizabeth were written. About a few hundred copies are in existence, and a lot of people have read it and enjoyed it. And the new edition of this book, once it was launched on Facebook, got me such an overwhelming response from people who wanted more interactive learning that this has led to this conference, thanks to my two dynamic organizing secretaries, Dr. Vivek Mahajan and Sushil Vijay. This talk will focus on, number one, biomechanics of bone healing, something about which we don't study much in our orthopedic course. The logic behind the original Elizabeth principle. What is the magic of Elizabeth? What are the components? And why this workshop is being held? Very simple. We all know that blood supply can be endosteal or periosteal. And when the periosteum is torn and the medullary integrity is disturbed, the fractured hematoma collects and keeps on expanding and stops only when the pressure exceeds the systolic pressure. Then starts the process of healing. Hematoma resolves, soft callus, maturation, hard callus, consolidation, remodeling. Periosteal integrity is essential for microvascular transport of callus and other factors stimulating bone healing. We surgeons open the fracture, converting a simple one into compound. We then suck away all the valuable hematoma. What good would a hematoma do inside a suction bottle? It's like the first milk feed for a baby. We then cut the periosteum, thereby disturbing the blood supply. We drill holes right across, disturbing the medullary supply. As we ream the medulla totally, removing the valuable marrow. And then we speak of non-union. Is there any consequence other than this? Lanyon, Rubin, Wolf Wright, Goodchip Kenwright all demonstrated that it is not rigidity, it is micromotion that stimulates callus. Elizabeth system is an intrinsically dynamic system, giving beneficial compression, distraction micromovements in the vertical axis while providing outstanding stability in torsional, rotational, and angular directions. This allows almost immediate weight bearing in every single case. So, if a patient asks you, how many days will I be in bed after Elizabeth? The right answer is till the anesthetic wears off. And the next instant, he has to be functional. Functionality is the key of the system. But, in my opinion, it may be contradicted by other folks that these beneficial effects stay only as long as you use K-wires and don't deviate from the original principles of the master. And what is the original Elizabeth? What do these two things have in common? This was what led to the invention and development of Elizabeth. In Siberia, close to Elizabeth's place of practice, there was a battle tank factory, and he took the bushings of the tanks. There's a bicycle factory. He used the spokes of the cycle. And that was how he made a cheap indigenous fixator for the people who couldn't afford the costly Hoffman fixator from Germany. Look at this. I will call you. This is not Elizabeth. See the science spin sticking out. Neither is that Elizabeth. This is certainly not Elizabeth. See the big science spins up there. As this. In my opinion, there are only three magic components in Elizabeth. One, tensioning of the wires. Two, corticotomy. And three, controlled distraction. If you learn these three things today, you will start learning orthopedics. certain questions which come to all of us. What happens if we don't treat fractures? What happens to animals with fractures? What is the first metal put in the human body? Why occasionally fractures don't heal despite multiple surgeries? Is there any observed indication of internal fixation? These and other questions plague the orthopedic surgeons a lot. To answer some of the questions, wild animals don't go to doctors, they don't go to bone setters, they don't even get a plaster done. But they rest till the pain restricts their movements and start moving as fast as possible because movement is survival for animals. An untreated horse with a fracture was back to walking in 2 months. This is a dog, an Irish setter, with a bad ankle fracture. And see that fellow, after 6 months, no treatment. Untreated fractures invariably heal. But they may heal with shortening, they may heal with overriding, but it heals nevertheless. When was the first metal implanted in the human bone? I doubt, unless you have read the red, you won't find it. This is an Italian mummy some 4,000 years ago with a nail or a screw to arthrodesis his knee. Looks like a sharp joint which was attempted to be fused. So for 4,000 years, man has been trying to fix nature and nature has been resisting the fixators. Man has been trying to play God for over 2,000 years, right from the Egyptian times, bone setters to our current bone setters. And now he thinks that probably he is better than God. But the worst by nature cannot compete with the worst by man. Nature will not cause this. Nature will not cause this. Nature will not cause this either. Nor will nature cause this. In surgically fixing a fracture, we delay nature's attempt at fracture healing. We deliberately convert a simple fracture to a compound fracture.